Is all I ever knew. It's my time, hit these rhymes, enjoy this lyrical view. Going head first like a shirt, it's just what I'ma do. It's automatic, no manual, tune in, don't change the channel.
So I got some of my friends on the podcast. We got a lot to talk about, important issues to discuss. First off, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and a lot others that died due to police brutality, injustice, and just racism. May their soul rest in peace. But this topic needs to be discussed, and I have great people to have this conversation with. And one of the questions that always gets lost or gets talked about when it comes to racism and injustice and police brutality is, why are white people scared of us as in African Americans? And there's different thoughts when it comes to that. So the floor is yours, Keisha. Start this off, because it's a lot. It's a lot going on, and it's tough to just pinpoint why.
Well, I think there's always generally fear in an unknown, and historically, fear has kind of been used towards a different, right? Anytime a demographic doesn't know much about another, there's like a fear added, whether it's the immigration from the 1800s and beyond with African Americans or Africans at the time had coming there in the 1600s. There's always this fear of the unknown. And so as far back as I can think of historically, you have the video, it's a movie, and maybe one of you guys know it, where they're portraying a black person about to rape a white person. And the whole point of that was like a fear. I think it was during Woodrow Wilson's presidency, but like it's to incite fear in the unknown. This black person may do you harm. This black person may attempt to sexually assault you. Like, just be careful of those weird people that you should fear, right? And so beyond the movie, just this idea of I don't know and the unknown, so be careful, be mindful of this group of people that could potentially hurt you. Now, where that comes from is probably a deeper question, but I think a lot of it just has to do with a position of a party that, or a group of people who decide that because it's something that they're unaware of, they should fear it.
Okay. Jontia, what about you? Because one can say it's a lack of knowledge based off a generational just family not understanding that, your grandfather, father, mother, whoever can not teach you these things, as in there's black people that are also good people, but them not being one-sided, you could say, is just affecting generations after generations. So what are your thoughts when it comes to that?
So I do feel like I agree with what she said around it being one, fear of people just being different. And a lot of times that's how people were raised, right? Like they weren't taught any better. So, and not saying that you can't blame them, because in today's world, in today's society, you have so much access to everything for you to be able to know your history, and I mean, it's basic human nature to know what's right from wrong, in my opinion. So I feel like a lot of it has to do with how people were raised. And to me, a lot of it is about control. Like, white people have been the majority for so long in history. And so I feel like a lot of their hesitance about black people and just people of color in general is not being the majority and not being in control. I saw a video last week of someone, I think it was Richard Spencer, talking about how he fears his grandchildren growing up in a society where white people are not the majority. And so, and that was like a genuine fear of his, right? So it's like, it's something that's instilled in them of like, we have to be in control, and not all of them, right? But some of them, like it's a control thing of like, I need to feel like I'm in control of this situation, of this society as a whole. Like, and to me, I mean, that's a crazy thing to be brought up that way and to genuinely have those feelings. But for a lot of people, that is how they feel. Like, they need to be the majority, and we are the minority, and we should stay that way and kind of stay in our place, right? And due to like slavery and things like that, they've seen examples of that. So they, in their head, that's how life is supposed to go.
Tim, what about you?
Yeah, both those two main points that I heard, right? The fear of the unknown as well as just giving up control. Those are two, I guess, big points right there. And the control part, I never really realized that. So John Tia, thanks for that. I think another thing that, causes white people to fear African Americans and Blacks in general is just what's been pushed out through the media, right? I mean, ever since we can remember, right, all the messaging that's around Black people when it comes to certain crimes or certain instances where a Black person's in the news, the messaging is always negative, right? So I think that negative messaging, just cascades down and it keeps cascading through society. I think that, and then just like John Tia and Keisha said, it's just a mixture of those things. Ever since the white man came and took over North America and just kind of exerted their control, right? That went down through generations, and because of African Americans having to come up through that, there's always been that division. So I think just because there's not a lot of knowing around what Caucasians feel towards Blacks, I think all of those combined, that's what kind of gives you that fear, or gives them that fear of Black people.
Oh, fair points. What about you, Fred?
Yeah, just to echo kind of what everybody said. Everyone pretty much has said everything that kind of points to why white people are afraid of us. It's a pretty loaded and complex question. So you have on one instance where Keisha brought up fear of the unknown. So it's like, if you've never, say you're in South Dakota or North Dakota or anywhere else where there's a very low population of Black people, your vision of them is going to be tied to whatever is showed in the media, which is what was just talked about. So it's like, you don't have a Black teacher, you don't have a Black friend, you don't have a Black teammate. So the only I guess perception of them that you're going to have is going to be based on what you see on TV, what you see on Power, what you see on the news, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for those people, and then once they come into contact with Black people, say they sign up to be a police officer, do Teach for America or something like that, their reaction to Black people isn't going to be the same reaction that they would give to someone who was a neighbor of theirs or someone who was their family member. And then as John Tia talked about with control, a lot of that fear is based off of everyone just fighting over resources. So that's just how it's been since, humans have been here. So you look at a place where, in the South or even in the Midwest, where there is a lot of commingling of Black and white people, but you still have this same fear. And it's their fear of losing control, their fear of not having enough resources to take care of their family. Oh, these people are coming in here and taking our jobs. We hear it a lot now with people from south of the border, but those were the same fears that white people had during Reconstruction or during the 1920s. And even after slavery and everything, you see there were a lot of pushes for unions and pushes for enhancing the working class and having the working class come together. And then you see the powers that be, quote unquote, were like, how can we get more people on our side? So that's when there was the first immigrant, or a lot of the first immigrants were from Ireland and from Italy and from all these places that weren't necessarily considered white at the time, because it was just you're from Germany, you're from Britain, that's white. You're from Italy, you're from Ireland, you're Jewish, that's another sect of people. But once they combined them, it's oh, now you have this opportunity to be white. You have this access to whiteness. That kind of threw away the unionization and the Black working class and the white working class come together. And it just enhanced that fear, or it helped soothe those fears that white people had of, oh, how am I going to get this job? Oh, well, now I'm white, so I'm going to be okay and I'm going to oppress this other class. So, and you see it, I mean, you still see it today when people go into, being a police officer, being whatever occupation that would give them some type of control, being a real estate agent and only showing like certain properties to certain people. And, you steer Black people away from, the good properties or whatever. And then if a Black family moves into one place, that brings the property value down. So it's all about like, what you see in the media, battle over resources and control, and just fear of unknown.
Okay. Ojo.
Ooh, man. I think they're all great points. Ooh. I mean, I think part of it is control. One, like everybody else has said, I honestly agree with what everybody has said so far. Control is one thing, and I don't think it's just a white person thing. I think it's all humans. I mean, with any group of people that's together. I mean, if I got a business, like I'm a business person, I have a business, and somebody wants to come take it over who's of a different type of ethnic group or anything like that, I'm gonna be a little bit hesitant to go and just give my business up to them. I'd rather say for somebody who's of my own descent or my own family, and do it like that. The thing with the United States, I think it all stems from when we were first brought in as slaves in the beginning. And I don't know, with us like abolishing slavery and then being able to not be classed as property anymore and be of human individual, and how that threatened so many people, even all the way back then. And now with the progression of us actually moving up in the world and doing things and being in certain areas and different levels of business, and basically socio-economically we're improving, all this, all this time. I think it's just, they're just scared. We're a threat now. But I mean, I really don't have much to say. I think everybody has hit it on the nail so far. So that's pretty much what I got.
So Samad, we've been having this discussion in our chat. If Black people, they're scared because of, white people scared because of Black people, and they see the stuff that we do, Black on Black crime, is that like another way of them saying, y'all have an issue, so why should we fix our issue? You being someone you're in Florida, and so you're around a lot of white people. So what are your thoughts on that? Because the white people, they see us and they see it on the news. Again, the media, the news outlets brainwash a lot of people, and they only show the bad. And most of the bad is, when it comes to African Americans, is Black on Black crime, if it's drugs, if it's murdering, and it's, Black versus Black. So if the white people see that and saying that, hey, they got issues, why should they tell us to fix our issue?
So what's your question?
My question is it, again, racism is bad.
Right.
It's bad. It's just hatred boiled down from generations to generations. I'm saying because there's some coons that are going to be out there saying that, hey, we Black people got our own issues.
Yeah.
And
that's
like, what are your thoughts on that with the coons that say that let's worry about our own selves before we worry about another race?
Yeah, first of all, I stand on 100% equality. I'll tell any Black person that, I'll tell any white person that. I was obviously raised with no hatred in my heart. Never grew up around, never grew up around white people at all. So, like coming to Florida, you already know, only Black male in the class, definitely a change of environment for me. But just being around them, a lot of them feel like they walk a thin line, bro. Like they can't, they fear trying to help us because they don't know how we would You know what I mean? How we would take that, you know? And I feel like some black people feel like, I'm not sure how y'all feel, but I know some black people feel like this has nothing to do with them. This is our business and stuff like that. Like, how can we integrate 100% as a nation? Of course, it'll never be 100%, but how can we come together as a nation completely if we think we can solve 100% of our own problems? Like, I don't think that's really possible. I think it takes equality. I think it takes police. I think all races need to be exposed, and a lot of these police officers need to be exposed.
Okay. Godwin.
Honestly, I think it's propaganda. It's definitely propaganda because these white people know. White people know exactly what they have done. White people know exactly what their history has comprised of. White people, the Tulsa, Oklahoma thing was not that long ago. They're making it seem like it's that long ago, but it's not that long ago. They know exactly what they've done. So they create these fantasies to support why they should be okay with, having this gun to shoot black people, or having this gun to do all this. You know exactly what has caused the unrest in black people. You know exactly what it is that you guys have done over the years. It's not that long. Their parents are still there. The guys that we see that are old as fuck were probably the ones that were shouting at those at the first black women to do all that stuff and do all the monumental things that we celebrate today. They were there. They know exactly what it is that they stirred in this unrest. And they create these stories to propagate around everybody to be like, oh, black people do this, black people do that. Like for centuries, how many times do you see a black person engage in some like bullshit that white people readily engage in? This is totally out of the question. It's totally out of the way. Texas has like the second most population of tigers in the world. Why in the hell does Texas have the most second evil, first evil fifth? It should not have that many tigers. Well, look at how many tigers are in Texas. You can walk down the streets with a 100-round drum in Texas. This is a white man's land. Texas is a no man's land. It's full of white people. We have a whole bunch of white people. These people know exactly what it is that they have done to cause the unrest, and they like to sit on those silly laurels of, what's it called? These people steal, they loot. What are white people that's going to movie theaters and mow people down? These are people that know they're evil and what they have done, and they like to form stories and bullshit to just sit okay with doing the nonsense. And people cannot be okay with that. We cannot be okay. They know we're all old. How many kids are forced to know exactly what the reality is? And you're telling me a grown white person doesn't know the reality? They know the reality they've created. I don't want to hear nothing about nothing. These guys know. I'm not making excuses for a grown person that knows this is a different color doesn't mean it's a threat. It's like it's ludicrous to even fucking think about making that excuse for them. So white people are evil to me. Honestly, I won't be the Dr. Umar, but white people are innately evil because they want to ignore that fact. They want to ignore that simple humanity that they're supposed to have. They were oppressed. They were oppressed before they went to God riots and take back their independence. They were oppressed. They know what an oppressed people do. So it's like you can't really just be here saying, I'm not saying to anybody else's point, please. I'm just saying like in general. I want to make excuses for a grown person. A grown person knows what their morality is. We all have a single moral line. If we're all following the same Bible, why is it the Bible applied to you in a different way than it's applied to me? That's what I think. I think they just fear because they definitely want to just create their little stories to just buttress their points of fear. But
I have a question.
Godwin, real quick, Samar. Godwin, were you just standing up, holding your laptop? Just
sorry, I got active, bro.
I want to ask Godwin a question.
My bad, I got active. My bad.
no worries. What's up, Samad?
I wanted to ask Godwin a question.
Go
The
ahead.
same question pretty much you asked me. Do you feel like it's like solely or only, I'm gonna say only our problem to fix? Like only our fight?
What do you mean only our fight?
Because Tunde asked, just like Dr. Umar said, like we don't need white people marching with us and stuff like that. I'm just asking, do you feel like this is like a black problem? We need to fix this and nobody else. Like we don't need help from others. This is our problem.
It's not about help. It's about the question of humanity. You know, like honestly, if I see a Chinese person in distress, my automatic humanity is to say, all right, this person is distressed. It's not by help or anything. We have to understand what it is in between color and everything. These in Italy, it's racism. Everywhere is racism. It's like people are racist. It's just for whatever reason I don't know. But people are racist. In China, they're blatantly. You see Black Lives Matter in China, they'll shoot everybody. They'll be like, what are you doing? Go back into your house. So there's racism everywhere. But we're dealing with it here. We're dealing with it here, and these people here know exactly what it is they're supposed to do. We know exactly Trump, that whole Twitter thing, the whole Twitter debacle. Trump took 24 hours to sign an order to say some bullshit. He drafted it. It was everywhere. He drafted 24 hours. So they know what they need to do. We all know what we need to do. It's not about us that, they're occupants of America. These are individuals the same as anybody else. So you know exactly what needs to be done to protect these individuals that are here. These are occupants of the land. Like, where else is anybody going? I understand that, our motherland. Yes, Nigeria is fantastic. South Africa is fantastic. Ghana is fantastic. But there are people that are here that know nothing of that reality. They know this one. So, like, for the one here, why doesn't the people that are in charge care for the people that are here? It's like, that's it. That's literally it. I don't know if I answered your question, if I just went on a tangent, but that's what
Hey, I got something to say. I got an answer for you too. I don't think it's just a Black person issue, right? I don't think it's something that it's our problem to fix. Like you said, it is a humanity thing, right? If we had, coming out of slavery, automatically you had Black people already 10 steps behind white people, right? So if, it's not on us, just all of us, to automatically get where all the white people are starting from slavery, right? There needs to be some type of things put in place that allow us to then help us get to that same point, right? So if you think about different places in America where you have, majority African American in that community, and it's more of a rundown society or whatever it is. If you look at that community, you'll see that there's gun stores, liquor stores, all littered within there. And if you look at their school system is absolute trash, right? If you go to another society that's, more brought up, right, more just helped out by the, government, whatever the case is, you'll see that they have way better schools. So you expect a demographic of people to rise when, you're cutting out their legs before they can even start the race. So I think it's a humanity thing. I think we need to recognize where we started when we got to America and see that there needs to be things put in place, different laws that allow us to get the same privilege, well, not privilege, but get the same opportunities. So that's what I think. That's what I feel strongly about.
Tunde, if I may, to answer your earlier question, what do you say to a coon that mentions Black on Black crime? I think one of your first questions is asking why does the term or the concept only come up whenever it's comparison to white people, or it's being used in a comparison to this is what, it's always a response, like you're doing X, and so why should we do Y? It's not a thing. No one calls a shooting in China Chinese on Chinese crime. No one calls a shooting in Italy Italian on Italian crime. So the question is, well, one, you don't entertain a coon, but if you chose to, you should ask them, why are you only referring to this in terms of comparing it to another demographic? It's not a thing and it doesn't exist. And, it sucks that we even have to talk about this, but it shouldn't even be something that people even give into. It's not real, and it's only used to say, y'all kill each other, so why can't I kill you too? Which is such a non human is really a Neanderthal last thing to say, but it happens. So you don't even entertain coons when they say that. And to Samad's point, and also Tim's, I don't think anybody should be responsible for knocking down something that they didn't build. Black people didn't build white supremacy. So in order for it to be torn down, the people who decided to build it and give it the power that it has, they need to work on building it down. And I love seeing all these protests with all these white people marching, because that's exactly what y'all need to do, to go tell your parents, to tell their parents to quit being racist. They also need to be involved, because we did not build this system. It has, by no means did we play into it or make it. So it's every bit of their responsibility to build down what they tore. I mean, to tear down what they built, excuse me. Yeah.
Fred, you want to chime in?
Yeah, just to add on Keisha's point, I mean, the onus isn't on Black people to end racism. Like there's not much that we can do to change the minds of white racists. All we can really do is, and what we have done since we've been here, is try to point out the hypocrisies of American ideals, which is equality, and say, you know, we should get this equality. We should have laws in place that, you know, where there's consequences for people that don't respect that equality. But at the root of it, when you can have all the laws that we have in place. Like it's not really that legal to be racist. But when you have a killing of a Black man or any other type of something that will go to a court, you go to a court, you know, say your sides of each story. At the end of the day, you have to convince 12 people in that jury that whatever happened was unlawful and that person is guilty and they should go to jail. You could have all the laws in place, but if there's 12 people in the jury that have these racist implicit biases or whatever, these racial undertones, if they see that the killing of a Black man doesn't deserve jail time, then we're just going to have these same discussions, these same Zoom calls, these same protests all the time, because it's not like respectability politics is one thing, but we can't do too much to change, like to show another race or people that we have dignity. So like, it's really on white people to end racism. Like it's not that much we can really do.